One good thing is from next week I don't have to do this, or after tomorrow.
Yes,
All I
imagine.
have to do is there's no more ink. You got to take all these rubbish vacuum.
Oops, we just lost the signal. Well, that gives me a chance to say welcome everyone to the 44th Health Teaching Workshop of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. And
All the
hopefully,
energy
there we
from
go.
all I need
We're
to just go
connected.
like
We're connected back again with Mr. Keshe here. Go ahead, Mr. Keshe. I think we're ready.
we are ready. I'm not doing anything. I'm going in macro like cheaty voice, and I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm going to listen to what the master has to teach us. One thing which is very funny, we're not recording yet. How come
Yes, we are actually.
it's emergency cutting meat, chopping meat, we call it the human body parts, and you're a vegan? You get the energy from it. Doesn't work. Vegetarian butcher. A vegetarian butcher.
Okay,
We're
we're
ready whenever you're
we're
ready.
we're recording. Go ahead, Mr. Keshe.
Can I give you something when you go back? Do you do any amputation in emergency? Happens, you have to do, huh? Yeah, you remember. It comes here and the finger is gone, you can't do anything, huh? If I give you a piece, can you test it? You're going tomorrow or you're going Thursday? I'll make you a system. One for the toe, one for the foot, one for the leg. Marco, if Armand was here, it would have been easier because he goes, we'll make it with Marco, hopefully, before you go. And then when you get the amputation, just put it there, the way I say, and see if it makes any difference. It'll never seal. You see through it. There is no healing. No, if you stitch it up, it's finished. You say you don't want to stitch it up and you put it there. It stops the blood. You see the bone growing. It's telescopic because I've done it. I know what I'm talking about. How? And because it's part of the structure, the immune system stops all the infection. Hmm? All you need to keep it just about 3 millimeters away, and then just keep on moving it out. No, this is a nanoplate. We hope. If it touches, you lose. You have to keep maximum distance constant. We think it grows about 1 to 3 millimeters a month, no more. You're not looking at, finger. Yeah, but it's got to be depend. If it's a leg, lower leg, we think it's about 1 to 3 years. Use it there. It should be good. Really try, because the lady we tried it on, she was converting phosphor to calcium, an infection. They operated. Caroline has the pictures. Ask Caroline. She was going through them yesterday, last week. Downstairs, you see what you got to do. What you got to do. What happened initially when the doctors? What we did initially was this was the toe. They cut the toe here because it was gangrened. And then the nurses didn't know that this was a special case where the lymph is full of calcium. The body was depositing calcium in the lymph. So they did a normal process and the chalk, more or less, infected the toe. So they were going up. So what we asked the doctors, he had to do a second operation. We He cut the toe this way. And from more or less day one, we placed our system across it. And you see it even today, it's nearly 5 or 6 years later, The toe is like open, you can see the bones in because she didn't want to carry on. She removed the top. But what it grows, you see, you see the bone, you see the flesh. But it's like the body has decided to stay open with no infection. And the other thing is, I think even with the gangrene situations, if you use it, because these are copper plates, they are linked up to the muscle tissues in frequency. It's like, they use a copper plates in the operating room for total disinfection. It does the same. So it should create a field which allows the system to be disinfected continuously. In a way, but in a special order. Yeah? It costs only 3 cents, but it gives somebody's life back. No, I have to make it. I have to make it in a way, and then I'll teach you. If it works, then you can change the size. But you have to make a mounting for it that literally, my God, these are eating chocolate people. If this is it, if this is the plate, you hang it in a special way that you can touching, but you move it in a certain. If it stops growing, it means it's too far. You have to adjust it, and you don't need any antibiotic, nothing. Diabetes, too much alcohol, too much alcohol. What to do? Just one second. What to do with them to satisfy the alcohol need, to replace the alcohol, because alcohol is replacement for psychological depression. Yeah, what to do is, we've seen what Brennan, and we've seen with other people. If you make, get a toilet roll is the best way. Toilet roll is just about the right size. If you get a toilet roll, long one, and spread it with zinc oxide and CO2. Yeah? Put it in the plastic bag and give them to wear it as a bandage. You sort out the psychological through the zinc, and you sort out the emotional through what they call it, CO2. And you find out they won't even touch anymore, more or less. They shouldn't. So they're not alcoholic anymore. By you changing your toe, it doesn't change it because they still keep on drinking. But no, you just mix the gas of CO2 with zinc oxide. Yeah, the difference how you make a CO2, a lot of you have a problem if it's a zinc oxide or CO2, is that if you have a very low current in between your plates, you make CO2. If you have a high current, which you solve by mistake, you get a zinc oxide. Zinc oxide is very much like a featherish, bigger cell than the copper, but they're more or less the same color. You need to produce. Yeah. I have just changed my battery. It looks good. Is my heart pumping too much? So, so what you need is to create the copper oxide or zinc. If it's too high, too fast the rate, you take from the zinc in conjunction with the water, you make zinc oxide gas. You need the zinc oxide because zinc is connected to physical, emotional part of the brain. So when there's a lack of it, there's a misconnection or lack of connection, and then you use CO2 for directly the emotional part. So you need to just fill in the tube with a cloth, a tissue, and just tape it on their head and wait for 2-3 months. Every day you wear this, you see a bunch of, what do you call it, Aborigines walking around with a white, new fashion. You're walking around with a toilet roll on their head, then you see the result. Preferable, the gas. Yeah, no, I'm trying to explain something to Dr. Corris. Mr. Wonder. The name I can never forget. If you can forget your mother-in-law, you can definitely forget your name. So if you if you do this, if you get an amputation, no muscle production, when you get a first, second, or third degree burn, yeah, what you do, you use the same kind of tissue, but you add copper oxide into it. This gives the neurosystem of the energy for the tissues, and this gives you for the muscle tissues.
And you can actually just mix the three ganses
Yes,
together.
yeah, because the body of the man takes what it needs at the time it needs. It's available, so it doesn't need to look for it. One of the things you find it will be very good if you can get and make it is what do you call it? Folic acid. Yeah,
Formic acid.
folic acid. You get to
Folic
the
acid, yeah.
pregnant woman, you'll find out if you can make the gans of folic acid, the reproduction of the cells speeds up because the radioactive material of the folic acid is available for any lack of energy.
So how are you going to make the gans of the folic acid? Yeah.
The professor is sitting there, called Mr. Markov.
No.
You can make a gas. What is folic acid? B12 is cobalt. Yeah? Pardon? Yeah, it's a cobalt radiation, gamma ray. The folic acid is just about lower level radiation in X-ray, beta ray, gamma ray, part of cosmic ray. That's why it affects in the growth. It's the energy available in a spectrum. B12 is only available for division of cells. B9, or what we call folic acid, is the soft energy, covers alpha, beta, gamma, cosmic rays. So when a child is growing so rapidly, there is a need for a spectrum of energy. B12 is concentrated in gamma. Folic acid, B9, is a spectrum of radiation. It goes sub-soft X-ray too. So in some places you need what we call ultra extreme ultraviolet. Yeah, it covers that for division. What do you call it? For that too. You find out children which supported with folic acid very rarely have breathing problem because the extreme ultraviolet of the folic acid covers for the respiratory situation in the lung, supporting the breathing. Because that's what happens in the lung. He's got a phone. You better speak in the microphone. I hear complaints in the background. What is it talking about? We don't hear it.
Okay, that's very interesting about the folic acid, but how would you make the gans of folic acid to put in your system here?
How do you give it to your patients? In liquid or in a tablet form?
In a tablet form. Yeah.
Aha, it's easy. Put it on the fire and burn it in the pan. Put it back in the caustic. You already have it.
Oh. Interesting.
It's not interesting. Is the first man who made the barbecue, he made the first cans, a nano layer. You need to convert it. You burn it, then you put it into caustic, or you put it directly into salt content with a slow, very low current voltage amperage. It becomes GANs, then you can use it. So you help the growth of the system, and any shortage in the immune system is supported by the folic acid radiation.
Well, that leads to another question I was going to ask you.
Listen, today you're teaching, not me up here. It's your teaching time, not mine. Come on, it's yours. You can ask the question after you teach. Oh, you look good enough for a New Zealand doctor in Australia. The ones who you don't know, Clarice is the man who's doing all the, you go on Amazon.com, you buy all the
transcribing
transcriptions. is the man who does it when he hasn't got a patient, he's not killing them, he's saving them. The extra time goes in transcribing. So now we see. Let him finish. No, 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 the information is lost.
Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this teaching. My name is Cornelius Van Dorp.
He's done too many transcriptions, he just reads it.
I've learnt that off by heart as I've transcribed quite a number of workshops here. And I'm here with my beautiful wife, Anna Angeline, and we're both from New Zealand. And to give a little history, I'm a medical practitioner of 30 years experience. I graduated in 1985, and I've worked mainly as a family doctor and a general practitioner. And then latterly, in the last 10 years, I've developed a real interest in plant medicine, herbal medicine. Both myself and Anna have trained in herbal medicine. And so on the one hand, I work as an emergency physician in a rural hospital, but on the other hand, we have set up our own little herbal clinic, with the vision statement being to help to resurrect our ancient heritage of plant medicine. But about 2 years ago now, my life changed when I fell off the roof and fractured my ribs and spine. And so I was laid up on the couch for 3 months. And during that time, I discovered Mr. Kesh, and I think I listened to about over 100 hours of video teachings, and discovered that he'd been starting to share his knowledge of plasma technology, etc., with a small group, including Rick and Vince, etc. And so then I got a bit of a name in New Zealand for understanding the Kesh technology, and I was invited to give a talk. And so I kind of looked at it and I thought, well, I've listened to about 100 hours of video, but I still don't really understand it. So what am I going to say? So what I did was I remembered back to medical school where I learned that if I transcribed large sections of textbooks, then I would fly through examinations with A+. So I decided to sit down, and right at that stage in March, April 2014, Mr. Kesh had just started the process of the Knowledge Seeker workshop. So I sat down and transcribed the first 5 workshops. And so then I was able to share the knowledge quite well with this group of people in New Zealand in an understandable way. And then I promised to share this document with them. When I tried to share it with them, the Word document kept getting scrambled. So I made a little Amazon Kindle book out of it. And then Amazon Kindle made me charge a minimum price of $2.99. So next thing, I had this little book with Mr. Kesh's teachings, and I was charging people $2.99 for it. So I thought, oh, I better get in touch with Mr. Kesh to see if he's okay about this. So I wrote to Mr. Kesh and offered him a percentage, and he was delighted. So in the course of the last 2 years, I've produced 7 books now of Knowledge Seeker workshops.
We have received no royalty. What's happening?
Pardon?
We haven't received any percentage.
Well, that's because
they don't pay you good enough.
We haven't been paid. We might have about $10 so far. So 19% of $10 is $1.90. So I'll pay you tonight. But no. But seriously, the books are starting to move out, and that's by word of mouth. And so they haven't been advertised on the website or anything so far. And and then the most recent development is that I've hired a transcriber in New Zealand who's now starting at workshop number 66. He's transcribing the workshops, and we're going to work at putting the transcriptions of the workshops up with the YouTube videos so that people can get the transcriptions, and we're starting to produce a few books of the workshop transcriptions, and that has allowed me to go back to look at the health workshops. As this is my special interest and my specialty, being a medical practitioner. It's my big interest, and so far I've produced a book from the first 12 health workshops, which is now with Dr. Alia, who's going through it and editing her part of it. And with the permission of Mr. Kesh, we're going to start putting the health workshops. So as far as being a teacher for the Kesh Foundation, I think my ignorance level is pretty high at this stage, but I'm working on it. And so over the course of the next few months, I'm going to be focusing on providing accurate transcriptions of the health workshops. In the meantime, of course, the health workshops, I think this is number 44 that we're up to already. And so I'm still back at workshop number 12, and with a long road ahead of me. As I work as an emergency physician, I can only do this in my spare time. But I do have an increasing understanding of the medical and health applications of the technology, and I just want to take this opportunity to give all my gratitude to Mr. Kesh for sharing this amazing technology with the world. And as it's coming out, it all seems to boil down, in the end, it's all going to boil down to being very, very simply the fact that we have to get into a condition of unconditional love and unconditional giving to everybody everywhere. And that's probably what it boils down to at the end of the day. It's that simple. If we want to have health and healing, that's what it's all about. But in the meantime, we're having lots of fun in New Zealand. We've set up a little lab and we're producing different GANS materials, and we're learning as we're going. And so far we've produced some pain pads out of copper oxide and CO2 GANS, which we've been giving to some of the people around us in New Zealand, and they seem to work really well. And now we're working on coiling up some copper coils, and I'm learning as I'm going. So in the last few years, with our interest in herbal and plant medicine, we actually focused our services on the use of one particular plant, which is Tabernanthe iboga, which is an African plant that has amazing use in addiction medicine. So like one dose of this medicine can relieve people of addictions very rapidly. So now I'm very interested in producing GANS material of that plant and other herbal medicines. Both Anna and I have a training now in Indigenous Maori medicine in New Zealand, so we want to merge our knowledge of that with the emerging knowledge of the new technology, and we'll share it with you as we go. But at this stage, we're at a very early stage of development of our learning. So it's amazing. I've learned so much just watching Mr. Kesh telling us about the zinc oxide, CO2, copper oxide, and folic acid, and the use of alcoholic addiction. And I guess that would work with other addictions as well, yeah. And the question I was
the problem is you cannot use copper oxide when you're dealing with the brain. Copper oxide can only be used when there's a tissue muscle, which is the bread tissue. Because if you use copper oxide when there is a brain concern, then you create new problems.
Okay.
So that folic acid and the copper oxide with a CO2 and a zinc oxide is for amputation and regrowth of tissues, especially in the cases of first secondary burn. Sorry about that, I know you're teaching, but I got diverted from that point. You're a half Hakim, I'll make you full Hakim. You got to understand the way you got to do it. You measure the mass. Zinc, CO2, and copper oxide. Yeah? You have to make a layer of each separate. You make one tissue of CO2. You make one layer with CO2, and you make one layer with zinc. The way you have to lay them is very much like this way on top of each other on the wound. So the three layers, the only effective three layer will be here to produce massive impact on the growth of the skin upwards. So if you can do it on top of each other, but you find the effect will not be as good as if you can put them in a slightly different angle to each other. They have to be sitting in an angle because there are 3 nanolayers in GANs, and the skin has 3 nanolayers in GANs too. First, the bottom layer, the middle layer, and the top layer. So each layer will interact with one. And then you find the skin comes up a matter of 10, 20 times faster than normal burn. Sorry about that.
No, that's very interesting. And so the the pain pads that we were using for pain in New Zealand were 2 layers of CO2 GANs with a layer of copper oxide in the middle. Would that be correct?
Try to use a bed of zinc.
Try to use them with the different angles. Yeah. And another thing that I was being puzzled about, and I was actually, I have a friend who has thyroid problem, hyperthyroidism, which is a overactive thyroid, and it's due to an autoimmune disorder, right? So the immune system has been stimulated by a previous infection. Now it's produced these antibodies against this infection, but they also work on the thyroid gland and stimulate the thyroid gland and overproduce the thyroid gland, right?
CO2 plate.
CO2 plate?
The same tissue with the CO2. Thyroid gland is connected to the emotional, which reflects itself in physicality. So when there's emotion, you need the CO2. If you make a band of the CO2 around the thyroid gland, it'll work.
Okay, thank you.
Should do.
All right, and about 10 years ago, I came across this technology, which is electrocrystal therapy, and this is from an inventor in London called Harry Oldfield, and actually it was about 20 years ago. And so I got one of his little devices, and it's built with a little Tesla coil that puts a pulse current of about 4,000 volts through an electrode, and the electrode has crystals in a glass test tube. And the way it worked is you just like put the wand on the area of disease on the body at a certain frequency. So it's an adjustable frequency. It's based on the frequency of the chakra system of the body, and the base chakra is at the same resonance frequency as the planet, and the frequency increases as you go up to the crown chakra, which is very, very high frequency, but then it has a resonance at the low frequencies with the alpha rhythm and beta rhythms of the brain. Yeah? But the specific application that I was impressed with this device was against autoimmune disorders. And so what he did was he'd just put the thyroid gland, the wand on the thymus gland, the thymus being the source of the immune system of the human body. And so just downgrade the frequency a little bit over the thymus gland, and it had a very amazing effect on many autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, the thyroid problems, systemic lupus erythematosus, and all of these other autoimmune diseases would respond by just resonating this thing over the thymus gland. So I was just wondering, maybe with your technology and the GANS materials, would you suggest just putting CO2 GANS over the thymus gland? Would that make any sense, or to sort of downgrade the immune system? Big pardon?
You got to decide.
Okay.
There is a problem with the thymus, and that is the center of B12. When you have a problem with the immune system, it means that the brain does not order production enough. So by touching the thymus, you don't sort the problem out. As I said, always you got to look at where the gland or the organ sits. Above the chest is to do with emotion. So when you have a problem with thymus, especially immune system, you got to see what's the reason behind it in the emotional part. And then you sort the problem. Here, you try to sort the physicality.
Yeah.
I understand. Because the term thymus gland, if you go back into the teaching as you are transcribing them, it should be somewhere there. The whole work of the thymus comes from the femur. Your femur is the feeder of the thymus, because when it releases the immune system, what time it takes to get here, sometime up to about a month to arrive at the position. And then what it does, it arrives at a position with the B12 to be cut. The thymus divides the immune system, what do you call,
Antibodies?
amino acids.
Amino acids. Yeah.
So what it does, some arrive very quick, and some, the reason that it takes sometimes a month to arrive is because it needs time for the immune system material to mature. It's like a wine. Very fast interactions, you get directly through blood circulation and the lymph and it hits. But when you need maturity, because what it does, the lymph, by getting sucked up out of the, what do you call it, well, not the lymph, but I mean, in a way, it's a lymph getting sucked out of the bone to join the lymph system and the bone marrow, is in a way controlled by how much energy at the nano level at the top of the bone has been released. It needs time. It's very much when you nano coat, you put it in a caustic, you take it out, and you see you got a nano coating. But if you take a nano coat out of the caustic and leave it in a box to mature, you see you have different nano coating altogether. So this is the process. It needs time to mature, and when it gets here, you find out they're very effective. Part of the problem here now is you doctors look for this. The problem of not having a proper immune system, and in respect to especially thymus here, is the nano layers here, which release the bone marrow, and these nanomaterials are only and totally controlled by the emotional part. So you have to go to the emotional part. What's the condition of existence? What the deficiency will show that it gets the attention of the person. This is very important. This is what we're talking about epilepsy attack this morning. You're looking at the end product. The reason sits there. If you safeguard that, you'll find the whole system goes through.
And so what's the best way to bring that?
He's supposed to teach on answering, yes.
And so I'm just wondering what would be the best way of actually bringing that into balance then, with just application of pads
the
or
way
copper.
I've done it before is very simple. You put your pain pads at the interaction point, and you connect it with a helmet to the brain.
Okay, so theoretically,
practically it works.
One pad over the upper femur.
Yeah, but they have to be of the same material connection. When you have a pain pad, you put a CO2 sheet on it. Yeah. So you connect it.
Yeah.
But it has to be from the same batch, not CO2 from somewhere else. It has to be of the same batch. That the connection is all this. You got to remember something, and I keep on explaining. Conditions You use the same CO2 in both conditions.
Okay.
When you open my cups, the process I use for the, what do you call it, the medical section,
Yep.
you can't see it, but I know what I put in there. In the silicon, which is inside, I was explaining to Marco, I think, some time ago this. I embed the guns, which the helmet and the foot are connected.
Ah.
You don't see it. As long as you're concerned, you have a magnet, but the magnet is a magic cover. Yeah? They're embedded in silicon. I embed nanomaterials, caustics of the same strength, that when you do the job, is connected. But when you do it this way, it's not your decision. Decision sits with the emotion. Do I want to live or don't I want to live? Do I want to still have an infection on the leg that I get the attention, or I don't want to?
So you approach that through with the CO2 GANs.
Yes,
It balances
because this has to do all the bone structure. The whole bone structure is primarily and only is there for the emotional part. It's supposed to, your physicality is irrelevant. It's just happened to do the job. But the immune system doesn't work. Your thymus doesn't work here. I mean, the body cannot, it's the end of the life. So emotion has a full control over this.
Right. So the
So
answer
I'm
is
going
like.
to sit down, you can teach us.
So the answer would be, don't put a pain pad on the thymus, but put it on the
Yes,
brain.
you have to
and
find out what the
on
reason is.
on the femur.
Which part gets damaged in respect to the functionality of the thymus, but in a slightly different way.
Okay.
When with the system you explain you reduce, it means there is too much coming in.
Right.
So when you reduce it, the problem with the present medicine is everything you overdo. This doctor you explain, they've learned to underdo.
Yeah.
So you take the energy away, you bring balance. So with your pens, because it's plasmatic pens, especially, you can do the same job with a pen. Just put a pen on the.
Mm-hmm.
Because with a pen, you have the same situation. Can you hear me? Hello. Yeah, I'm flipping. Wait 1 second.
Can you hear this?
Just wait 1 second. What was it? Can you hear us now? Hello? Can you hear us? Yeah. Okay. So what happened when you have a misfunction in a thymus or in any gland is not if it affects only, let's say, a bone structure somewhere or a muscular structure somewhere. It means the rest of the thymus is working perfectly. So it has a point of reference, like when you put a pen on your skin. So it gives through is magnetical, and what the thymus doesn't need, it takes through is gravitational. So it finds a balance. You don't need a pad. You can even do it with, but the difference is when you do this, at the end of your pen, dip your tip with CO2 gans.
Ah.
Then you dictate emotional condition. When you want to change to a muscular structure damage, you tip this in a copper oxide gans. The pens you produce, I'll explain to you further and further how you can manipulate the condition. If you're dealing with a brain hemorrhage, you use CO2 plus zinc O2 plus slight amount of potassium. So you mix the ganses. But if you have to be very careful about the use of potassium. So now you've learned to use the pens. Now you can start manipulating the plasma of the pens for what is needed. If you have a bone deficiency, people with a bone deficiency, it's very easy. Just put some calcium gans, plus you have to have, it's part of it. you need to have phosphor.
Right, but I heard you say one time in a workshop that to be very careful with phosphor.
Yeah, I said very little amount.
Yeah.
Because if it's become deficiency, then you have to ingrain it with phosphor to support it, because the phosphor will become, or you can do it with the sulfur, you can support it, that it changes the mutation in the DNA totally. Because you can repair bone deficiency, but then it comes back. You have to add phosphor to it that ingrains in the structure of the DNA.
So in practical terms, you're talking about the GANs of potassium and the GANs of phosphor and the GANs of sulfur?
Yeah,
So,
but you have to be careful. This is in the coming time when they go. I said this morning, the teaching of the plasma will carry on for years because you have to understand each part of it. So you need the phosphor because the backbone of the amino acid is phosphor. If you want to change bone deficiency, it means it has been embedded in the DNA.
Yeah.
So you have to allow any deficiency in DNA in the backbone to be readjusted, and only can be done with phosphate. Otherwise, you help the situation, but you don't reverse it because you don't change the position in the DNA.
And so would the same thing apply for the use of a pain pen? You could like dip the end of it in a
Yeah, but
GANs
that's a
of,
bit more delicate. You got to watch what you're doing.
yeah.
Even with tumors, the tumors, body tumors, you can play more or less the same game. You got to find out what is the tumor. If it is, yeah, there's a problem in tumors. Some of the tumors are CO, some of them are CO2.
Okay.
Link up. If it's the link up, it's malignant. If it's CO2, it's non-malignant. Then you have to see if it's a malignant tumor or non-malignant tumor, and then you have to decide if the cancer spreads. Then you have to decide what's the condition of malignancy, because it doesn't sit in the cancer, it sits in the brain.
Hmm. And could you also make a cup like with the
Yes,
with the
you can make it with a cup.
same
You can make it. You
same
can make it with a cup in a very easy way, but
yeah.
you don't need the cup. The cup was a way to start the process. Now you understand a bit deeper. You can do it in a much easier way. Yeah.
Right.
So in so many ways, if you do what our Chinese friends are doing, they have the stacker, and you stand in between the stacker. If it's emotional, you embed it in CO2, in CH3 or copper oxide. If you add another point to the stacker, you can put phosphor if it's the genetic deformation.
So they're basically making a chamber with.
Yeah, you just walk in it. It's in one of the patent, in the medical patent, it's already there. I go in with my disease, I walk out, and now our Chinese friends have brought a new way of looking at it for you. Is there? We showed this one in Rome. You've seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. This time you're teaching. I'm going there.
Well, I have another question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
At lunchtime, you learned that Anna and I and our Chinese delegation are all vegans.
Jesus, God help. Now he's going there.
So we had a real problem finding some lunch.
That's why we were late. We were looking for anybody sells rabbit food. No, we knew where to go.
So, but as a consequence of that, I learned just a few months ago that I'm B12 deficient. And I started getting some symptoms. I started getting this horrible rushing feeling over my shoulders. And I'd have to lie down on the ground for a minute and totally relax, and then it would pass off. And then I remembered that some of my patients that had been B12 deficient had those same symptoms. So I tested myself, and sure enough, I'm deficient. So I'm now taking a B12 supplement. But what's a plasmatic way to approach that deficiency? You know?
You won't believe it. You're a doctor. Do what the Africans do. Go to toilet and don't wash your hands for a month.
You mean eat your
It's
own
the easiest way. I know it's not hygienic what they say, but seriously speaking, is where does B12 come
from animal protein? Yeah.
from? Animal. And we get the B12 is a high energy cobalt level. Gamma is one of the highest our body can tolerate.
Mm.
There are fields which are much stronger. We call them cosmic rays and above. But there is a way you can replace the B12. Don't forget, B12 comes through our digestion system. So it's part of your immune system.
Yeah.
B12 has a direct calcium connection. So you look for the deficiency in B12 in your femur, not in the, because depending on its attachment to calcium, because all the the immune systems, all of them, without a fail, carry calcium leakage. So it means part of the calcium, especially in the femur, is not there to support the narrow band energy. What does this mean? Is uh, if you look at the structure of the bone, the bone, as I explained, has two ways. This is your bone, and this is the wall of the bone. And here somewhere is your bone marrow. The reason you carry calcium with all the immune system, especially B12, which comes through it, is there are passages here. These passages have sizes. Gamma ray is one of the highest, so it's very narrow. So it's somewhere in your body, you need a very fine, what I call it, passage that can take the finest, what do you call, lymph to, by conversion and turning. Actually, one of the things is with the gamma, it turns around the bone, the passage. It's not direct through. The structure, we put it this way, is not that it goes through steps. If you look at the bone here from the top, the passage is like this. And it goes hexagonally down too. So you look at where you have created a blockage, which means as the reason they're all connected to calcium is as they go, because the bone is made of calcium gans, they wash it with them and they get attached to it. So somewhere in your bone structure, there is a blockage for a fine, what they call lymph. You can wash it. There's a way you can wash it, is what you do, you create a pad which is stronger than B12, and you place it outside the bone structure on the body. And then what happens when the lymph comes in the back of the pad, in a way, it gets reduced in size. If the lymph is this size, it cannot go. You reduce it. So as it goes, it cleans up. After 6 months, 12 months, the whole passage gets cleaned up, and then you do. I've done this with chemotherapy, and we know it's 100% correct. With the chemotherapy, as I explained before, in the stomach, the chemotherapy is one of the best things for cancer, but at the same time increases the size of the lymph, and when the lymph comes to the bone, it's too big to go through, so it reduces your immune system, and we see all the side effects of chemo. So we developed the technology. Now you heard the guy during the summertime, the father and son are from dentist and doctor. Yeah, that we tried it now, chemotherapy in Germany have seen it. We create a path where it takes energy from this point, and then the size of the lymph becomes small enough, and you get your. The more you pass through, the more it cleaned up, and it goes through. And then sometimes again you can put, because chemotherapy, if it lasts more than 6 to 12 months, is the cycle of chemotherapy. Through its interaction, affects the phosphor, and it becomes part of the, what they call it, DNA change. So you need to understand how you do it. And then when it comes to part of the bone marrow, then you have a next problem in the bone marrow is the top of the bone. Now you have to support the bone nanomaterial that they can allow the lymph of this size to go through it. Otherwise, they block and they create another problem. So you need to put a condition of the change balance on the bone marrow. So it's a three-part set. And you have to do all three. Reduce it, and then you put a system here to strengthen the the power of the, what do you call it, the beta. And then here you make a facility for it that can allow it to go through.
So these are just the use of different GANS materials in these
I
pads?
use different reactors condition. I build this. It takes sometimes a month to build a system like this, but it's effective 100%. And you see what we've seen with the doctor in Germany, and we've done it before. You change the condition. But with your B12, it means gamma rays, which is the highest order, which is the narrowest of the lot, which they need a specific way of cooking to become strong, is blocked in the system. Yeah? And when you look at the bone marrow, as you go to the bone marrow, the strongest are more in the center. So you need to support the central column on top of the femur where the blood vessels sucking onto bone marrow.
So this is specifically for support of the bone marrow after chemotherapy. Yeah.
Then you find out in 6 months the bodies are strong enough to overcome any immune deficiencies, and it gets normal. This is what we are doing now in Germany. And even the results last month is more impressive than the first time we thought. It's very impressive the way the results are coming. And I don't advocate use of chemo, but nowadays it's there, we do it. Now this is a solution to it. It's a backup to it. And you have the same problem with the B12 deficiency. One of the other ways to do a B12 deficiency is try to mimic the condition of transfer of the lymph at the B12 level within the vicinity of the gland. That's much easier.
So you're going to mimic the
B12, and then you'll find out the energy around will go into the lymph and behaves like the support. You can do it. You gotta see the strength of your B12, how far it is and how far low you can measure it. There's systems to measure it. Then what you do, I use different techniques of measuring it. It's the same with thyroid and parathyroid gland. You put a system, because it's usually around the heart.
Yeah.
If you put it on the heart, you feel the palpation. Yeah. If it's a palpation there, when you put it on, it means it's too strong. You understand? Yeah. But you need the palpation to create that pressure in the background, the blood pressure to movement. But then you see the palpation give you indication if it's absorbing or not. You feel breathe.
Yeah, that's palpitation.
Palpitation is not important. Yeah. It's the way you breathe, and then that shows, because don't forget, this is connected to this. It knows if the body needs it or not.
Right. Yeah.
So you got two choices. Yeah. When you go to the toilet, don't wash your hand like Africans. You always have enough vitamin B. But that's how it's been. They've been brought up that way all our life. The thing.
That's true enough.
You became vegan. This is the problem. You become vegetarian. There is a salvation. You become a vegan. You totally wipe it out. You totally wipe it out. This is the problem. When I don't do the health much anymore, because it's a waste of so much energy with the way things are happening. When you get a blood test, the first thing you look is for B12. There's a bracket. Below it, there's a deficiency. Above it is overusage. And then you don't need anything else. You get, depends what scale they use. Let's say 1 to 10 is good. Then you get 15 and 100%, the ones which are Vegetarian, you always get zero point 0.5, zero point 0.2, or whatever, which means the body is not given enough B12.
Yeah.
With the younger generation, you see it. The girls nowadays become fashionable to be vegetarian. I always say, this is what you've done to yourself. That's why you're going to see more damages in the long run, is driving down the motorway, 120 kilometers an hour. The rest of the cars are going the same speed. They've been going from Rome to Bari at the same speed. And then you decide, I want to go 10 kilometers an hour. You crash the car, you cause mayhem. So this is what you've done to your body. By being vegetarian, the rest of the car pile up in, or you roll over. So now what you've done, you have rolled over. It means the body has been all your life. You've got to look at the structure of the life. I've explained this in other teachings. The structure of life has been very, very simple. And that is, for millions and millions of years, everything we see in our body is well tested and adopted. For millions of years, we have eaten meat. Because of high energy, we have created this gland to handle high energy food, which is meat. Huh? Now, this gland suddenly does not receive this guy, but it has produced a B12 level to do this job. It's not that it stops producing and the whole system goes into mayhem. You're still using protein in vegetation or whatever, but not of the same. You have the wrong B12. That's your problem. You have a B12, mainly for the meat, not for vegetation.
Right.
There is where it comes in. To become a vegetarian, especially to become a vegan, should take 30 years, step by step, that you don't cause damage. Because this deficiency here creates a huge psychological damage later on.
So on the other hand, back in workshop number 66, you were seeming to indicate that we all had to sort of stop eating meat.
We have to stop eating meat.
I can remember you saying that.
No, but we have to organize it that we do not damage.
Yeah.
You cannot do. I've seen teenagers suddenly decide, I'm going to be vegetarian from tomorrow.
Yeah.
We see the change of the structure, we see psychological changes and the rest. And to become a vegetarian, especially a vegan, you don't eat meat for a year on a specific day. Next year, you don't eat meat on two separate, but a distance, like a Monday and a Friday. Next year, you do a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday. And when you got to that point, you wait for 3 to 5 years because the DNA has to change. You know, as a doctor, it takes 25 years to embed any changes in DNA. So now calculate how long it will take you to be a real vegetarian. People who go in and jump in the deep end, they sometimes jump on a stone under the water. And that's what you've done, and that's what you see.
Unless you don't wash your hands.
Unless you don't wash. Because, I explain this again and again, is not washing your hand, is in your intestine. This is your stomach. In your intestine, you have, at a point, just somewhere before the big intestine, somewhere here, depending on different position of human being, at this point is a micro nano thickness. On this side, you absorb B12, and just on the other side, you release B12. The B12 you absorb here is at the level which is needed by thymus. And here is the one which is weakened. The knife is not sharp enough. So thymus releases it and appears here. And then as it goes through your big intestine before you go to the toilet, it absorbs all the radiation from the leftover foods which the body has rejected. So it becomes at the level which is needed for thyroid. So we become very hygienic. We go to toilet, we wash our hand. We don't cultivate with animal, what do you call it, waste. So now the link is broken. So when you go toilet, you do it unconsciously, you have the energy of the B12 stuck to your hand, you touch your face, you touch your mouth, you feed enough to be. That's what we've done for billions of years.
So that's a sort of super potent type of B12 in your
Yes,
large
it's
intestine.
because everything, the time it comes into bigger intestine, it absorbs enough energy that it can go back. And we used to do it. The whole structure sits in understanding the process. We have broken the chain with super cleanliness, with super everything else. You know, about 15 years ago, scientists did a test. And close your ears if you don't want to listen. Because what I'm going to tell you, a lot of you are going to go sick. But that's the truth. British television, the series, were doing all sorts of things for finding what things fly where. Do you know, most of you, where you get your B12 from in the modern day?
Eating meat?
In your bathrooms. Most of you get your B12 in your bathrooms. They did a test. When you go to toilet and you flush the system, you think it's gone? No way. Your toothbrush absorbs more of it. So in a way, you're eating everybody else's in the toilet.
What, through the atmosphere?
Yes. It's a well designed. They could find on your toothbrush and tell you which member of the family has been to toilet. Now, would you keep your toothbrush in the toilet or you keep your toothbrush outside? Because it sprays everywhere. High pressure, the way it's built, everything you touch. Yes, somebody in the background is laughing. But this is the truth. This is what has been done, scientifically measured. So if you are a total vegetarian house, nobody eats meat, you are in a bigger problem. If you have a child who is a meat eater, you have a salvage.
Just leave your toothbrush in the toilet. Yeah?
Toothbrush in the toilet. This is a scientific research done by BBC years ago. So you have two choices. Let your child eat vegetable or don't wash your hand. But either way, this is part of, it's not a solution. This is just looking at it in a different way.
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me, and it actually makes me understand a story that I heard back at medical school, because there's a certain group of people in India who I think they might have been Sikhs, and nobody could understand why they weren't B12 deficient because they ate no animal protein. And eventually they found out that they got enough B12 from the rat feces in their rice barns to suffice. So,
this is a problem. This is the problem of modern technology. But your problem is not there. What are you going to go into space when you don't eat food and you don't go to toilet?
Well, if you don't eat any food, then you wouldn't need any B12 anyway, right?
But you still have a body, you got to divide it. B12 is a cutting knife of the life. So it decides how much energy each lymph will carry, that by information through your emotion and physicality will be dictated at the point of discuss. So when you come to physicality, it's not only your neural system, it's part of the emotion which dictates what lymph strength will be available for physical condition. It's a knife at the edge of the point of conversion.
So are you saying that you get it in a plasmatic way in space?
Yeah, it's totally plasma. It's only magnetic field, gravitational field. And most of B12 transfer comes not through the neural system, it comes through the environment of the plasma field. It radiates. That's why it's placed in that position.
Interesting.
Oh, you don't want to know what I know, but at least it's enough for you to know why you got a problem. You have two choices: or get a dog.
I got one.
Train him to go to the toilet in the toilet. He is not vegetarian. This is a rude way of looking at it, but it's actually the truth what we got outside. You don't have a vegetarian dog, so you got to train him the right way. Is he vegetarian too? God help you. Then it goes worse. So, but you got to remember, every part of research done by human being can be used now in understanding the part of the research. But this was a very interesting research done by BBC years ago. I left in England maybe over 10 years ago. It goes back years before that. There was, I think, a program called New Horizon or something like this. They were doing all these kind of experiments. So now you understand, you don't need to wash your hand, you already feed yourself.
That's good.
Yeah. But they said, what about if you put the lid down? It still sprays through the holes.
Okay. So another question I'm interested in, we've talked about.
What's going on? You're supposed to.
This is all very interesting. Thank you very much. Another question that we talked about it this morning, and I guess that's just in the SSI teaching, so it's not available for everybody,
no,
right?
It's not a public teaching. No.
Yeah. So I asked a question about the free plasma in the thymus, right? So I learned in the first 12 health workshops that the brain with the thalamus and the soul and the cranial cavity being the top plasma reactor in the star formation, with the heart and the lungs as the three base reactors in the star formation, and the free plasma in the position of the thymus, correct? And so I was wondering if there's any way that we can apply some sort of discipline like breathing or meditation to increase, to move towards a condition of lift in our human forms. Because as we know, some Indian yogis have got to that condition.
That's levitation. It's not a gravitational magnetic position. I explained this before. There are, in the coming time, we'll teach how you can move across in any dimension, in any position, irrespective of levitation. And this is what you will go back. As I said, we'll be here for years to learn. It's when you have your emotion and you have your lung, and thymus more or less really sits in the position of the free plasma. You create a condition of the position of the free plasma, which just about sits over your thyroid gland. And then in respect to the totality of this, you interact with the physicality of the soul, which covers the total body, and then you can lift.
Or this gravitational magnetic positioning.
Yeah. But you can control it with the breathing, because then you affect the position of this gland in so many ways. You position this is inside out. If you look at it, it's like this, because your heart sits this way. You have to see the position and the condition it's sitting. With the body of the man, the lungs, the two lungs, and the heart sits here. So it's off-centered.
Right.
And then it moves back to thalamus, the thymus, and then it affects the totality of the creation of the sixth dimension, and then you have and then it's this which interacts with the so this way is totally independent, and then you interact. This has been achieved only by Prophet of God, because they go to and that's their soul, not their physicality.
there are some stories in New Zealand of the old Maori people having that ability to move from one position to another in the flash of an eye. And
You
I
can
guess
do. You can do. There are a number of people even in the West who can do it. It looks strange to some, but they have reached through pain. People who suffered somehow achieve this repositioning much easier than the people who had an interesting life. Because this is a Chinese say, all Chinese say. They say pain makes you wise, wisdom makes you rich, and richness makes you happy. And this is the detachment. Because they've been through suffering of hunger, nothing, and the rest. They have to come because to survive, interact it, to understand to a bigger field to have. It's like birds fly from one position to another. They have learned how to gravitational magnetic field position themselves. This is where I said even in the teaching of this today or before, you don't need a spaceship to go. If you understand the detachment from physicality, you don't need this. You can do it very easy.
So you're saying like the only way to get there is through pain, or that's the best
these
way?
people have.
Yeah.
Because they become detached from physicality. They don't want to feel the pain anymore.
Right.
They don't want to feel the hunger. They don't want to feel what has to do with physical part of the body. So they use their emotional part, which is strengthened a lot, and then they use their thalamus in conjunction with the totality of the energy. Now they create a new condition which allows them to release the energy which takes to totality of physicality, and they move themselves to where they can absorb energy without physically eating food.
Or could it be through fasting as well? Because we hear about the stories of the prophet level people in the Bible, John the Baptist and so on, spending 40 days in the wilderness with no food and then attaining a position of...
It's the same, pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Because when you get to the point we discussed this morning, teaching, regarding the point of the contact between the physicality and the emotional part of the brain, then you detach. Detachment comes from the pain, and the pain causes that. Then you only work through the thoughts.
So it would be, judging from last week's health workshop, where you
Michael,
talked
this
about...
guy doesn't miss much, huh? He can tell you which one, which paragraph. No wonder he's been a good doctor and he passed with good marks. He's got a photographic memory.
No, but last week Carolyn was talking about the importance of unconditional love and unconditional giving in attaining that position of transparency. Right? So we must be talking about the same thing there too. So it's not only going through the
Just
pain barrier,
one
but
second, please.
also being in a condition of unconditional giving and love, I believe.
Just 1 second. I'm just gonna cut off for 1 minute. I'll come back.
Oh, thank you, Marco. I can see you've got a fairly smooth operation here. Thank you very much for that. Is there anybody got any questions? No? Can I ask if anybody's read any of the Amazon Kindle books or downloaded them? No?
Yes, I'm using to buy them. It's Sandor from Hungary.
Oh, hi, Sandor. Yeah.
By the way, we had knowledge seekers who asked about is it allowed to translate content from there in other languages? So how about the copyrights issues?
It's no problem with me. I mean, I'm just regarding myself as the transcriber that's making this available, and yeah, the only reason I put a price on it was because Amazon Kindle made that necessary. So it had a minimum price of $2.99. But also, I was hoping to build up the Cash Foundation in New Zealand, and now we do have a full-time prescriber that I'm presently supporting out of my pocket, but I'm hoping to actually make him self-sufficient. And we did talk today about actually bypassing Kindle and just making each transcription of each workshop available on the YouTube channel.
That would be absolutely the best way to go. As an SRT file, the actual line by line caption or subtitle would be really the best. And that way, once the English is on, then all the translations will fall right into place. There'll be a dozen translations can get done right away automatically from that.
I know it's a hard work to do these translations, and I would be glad to contribute with some donations to those to keep that going on.
So what I've done is
it would be good if you make available this outside of Kindle to also post there a PayPal account or a button for donate or so on.
Yeah.
You're gonna buy me a beer style button, which was a very nice invention for the WordPress blogs.
No, I think the best way to do it is to actually hire Korn and his helper there, who are excellent people, or at least one of them, just to hire them to do this work. This is probably the most important work that needs to get done, is to get the words of Mr. Kesh down in black and white. And it's something I started with many years ago and have struggled with to try to get teams together to do this and so on, and to get all the files together, which are just spread out and dispersed right now. We need to bring them all together and start getting everything up to date so that we have all the words. So then when you see that video, when you play it either in the online teachings or on YouTube, then you see the words in English or any language of the world you want to select. 100 different languages at least should be on there. So you can just automatically go to your language and know what's being talked about, at least from that perspective. And I think this is really important to do. So what I've done is to start things off is to get some groups going in the new community.keshfoundation.org. So there's a transcription group, there's a translations group, and there's an audio video group, and so on. And these different groups will learn to work with each other so that we get the video out right away and get that so it's got good audio so that the transcribers aren't going crazy trying to hear what's that word and I can't hear through this all this noise and so on. Get a good audio person that gives us a good clear file to start with, and from there we get the transcribers as a team to work on it and put it out. Bingo, within a day or two, bang, you've got all the English down. And then from there, there's so many people that want to do translations. If they have a good English to start with, they can form teams for different languages and just go right at it. And we can help guide them and so on to do that. So this is my dream to help this happen. But I'm not the person to get into all that. It's just too much. My back and arms just can't take all the communications and so on. But I'll get it set up. And whoever lands in those groups can help work with each other to try to sort it all out. There needs to be a database of each video and what languages are done and whether the transcription is done or not. And because there's a lot of duplication going on now and a lot of excess work that doesn't need to happen. It's so hard work transcribing. It's just excruciating when it comes right down to it. So you don't want to duplicate something and you find out your life's work, you just poured a month of your work into something and what? Somebody's already done this? Oh no. So this is what I want to avoid. I want to have people that are enthusiastic about transcribing, and there are lots of people out there who are enthusiastic about it. It's just a matter of getting them all together, and it's like trying to herd cats sometimes. It's not impossible, but next to it. So in a way, Corin, I'm appealing to you in a way to come up with a suggestion and put it in Mr. Kesh's ear, since his ear's pretty close to you right there, of how we can deal with this, because I know it's an issue that's close to your heart as well. And the main thing is to get this information out to the people who need it. I think we both agree with that. And how people get paid and how the money flows is almost secondary in a way. And definitely I can see we can package this in so many different ways to make money off of it. But then it can be there for free for the people too that just want to go to YouTube and read it or whatever. So it can be lots of different ways. I think that it can be self-supporting, like you say. It's just a matter of organizing and playing with it a bit.
Well, thank you, Rick, for your comments there. I'm actually quite awestruck at the amount of work that you've done over the last few years, and I want to congratulate you and thank you for all that, and for bringing this all to the world. And so my effort has been like those first 7 little books that I've produced on Kindle. They don't include all of the workshops, but probably most of them, or maybe about 2/3 of them, up to workshop. I think it's number 33 so I'm very happy to make to dissect out the actual separate workshops and make them into separate files. And then I did have a word in Mr. Kesh's ear today about organising that and also getting them onto the website so they're more available. Then my only interest is in getting our transcriber self-subsistent, and after that, then it's just going to grow. So I think with all the products that are coming out now with the Kesh Foundation, we're all going to be probably okay financially. It's still a bit of an issue, but I think that's going to be less and less of an issue, especially as learning from Mr. Kesh and realising that really in the plasma universe, the more you give, the more you get. So I think it's all about giving, isn't it? And so really I regard this as my work as a gift to everybody. And so I think maybe...
and here I'm giving you more. You're giving it away, and I'm giving you more work here now, in a way, putting it back in your lap. So what you give, you get back. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's what keeps it going, in a way. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That was kind of funny, though.
No, that's great. That's great. So I think it's all an organic process as well, and the timing has been all, correct, and so it's all growing organically. The Kesh Foundation internationally, and I'm really, really, really happy to be part of it. So what I'll do is I'll try and dissect out all the workshops and make them available, maybe in PDF files. I'll probably get a few connections from Mr. Kesh today who can help with that, and maybe we can be in touch, Rick, about getting in touch with the transcription groups that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, we're a little bit behind. At Kesh Foundation New Zealand, we started at workshop number 66, and I think we're producing about 2 workshops a week, just of the knowledge seeker workshops, and that's being done by a dedicated transcriber. And that's allowing me to go back to the health workshops, which is my particular interest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been talking to Dr. Aliyar about getting 3 books out of those first 26 workshops in any case, and then moving on up to the workshops that we're actually producing at the moment, including workshop number 44, which brings us up to the present moment.
Yeah, and hopefully, my dream eventually is to get into real-time transcribing, so that as the words are spoken, that you see them come up on the screen, and they're being corrected in real time with the team that's working on it. And then we don't have to deal with it later with all the transcribing and so on. And then we can do almost instant translations at the same time too, and then people can ask questions from different languages, and it'll make sense in the moment.
I think we're heading in that direction for sure. Yeah.
I think we can do it once we get caught up, but it's a major job just to get anywhere close to caught up to start with. There's like you say, there's so much coming out all the time, plus the backlog is quite incredible. Oh, stalled there a bit.
It's a massive ocean of material that we're just not going to be able to get there in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, that's why I think we need a team to do it, but it needs a team leader is the thing, and it's almost a full-time. Well, it could very well be a full-time job for many months or years as far as that goes, and it should be. It's something I think is key to getting the teaching out there, and to really allowing the Kesh Foundation to expand, and for Mr. Kesh's teachings to expand the way they should. So if we can work toward making that happen, that's so much the better. Anybody wants to volunteer to help for that, get a hold of me or Korn or somebody that's got transcribing behind their name somewhere there.
If anybody is interested in getting in touch with us in New Zealand, you can get in touch on the Facebook site, Kesh Foundation New Zealand. There's a Facebook site.
Is there any kind of help that you need for that organization in New Zealand now? Like, now's your time to put out a plea for admin help or some sort of, I don't know what you have in mind for developing it out. Looking for manufacturers, for example? Are you looking for distributors? Are you what is your wish for? What would you like to see happen?
I think probably what a good idea would be to make a separate transcription for each workshop, right? And make that available on the YouTube site and elsewhere. And so we need to work out a publishing sort of program that's not Kindle, and but it's an electronic, and it can actually be downloaded hard copy as well. And I'm not absolutely sure. I need a little bit of guidance on that myself. I'm
Yeah,
just
we
an
should be able
emergency
to.
coach.
We should be able to
Just
do
follow
that
this
through.
out of my own interest. So I'd appreciate some help and guidance there, and if anybody can give us some of that sort of help and guidance, or have some suggestions on how to improve the availability of these workshops, of the transcriptions, please get in touch. On probably the best way is on the Ketch Foundation New Zealand Facebook site.
Yeah, or with the group on the community.keshfoundation.org site as well.
Sorry, what's that address there?
It's called community.keshfoundation.org.
Okay.
So it's just it's a new site that's been set up recently, and it's got lots of features for groups and interactions and storage and that kind of thing. So looking forward to working with it. I think it'll be a nice format for the groups once we get it organized a little better. So I've already started the transcription group there, and I'll be adding people to it over the next few days. So again, you can get a hold of me, or go to the site itself and just sign up. You have to sign up for that community.keshfoundation.org site, and it'll be more a little tighter sort of site than just the some of the other just regular websites from the Keshe Foundation and so on. Hopefully we'll build it into a Keshe community there.
Awesome. That sounds great.
And as far as the files go, YouTube works well with the SRT files, like I say, for the subscripts and captions. And there's also capability, I believe, for just plain transcriptions there as well. So what could happen, for example, is to have a transcription at the YouTube site, and people can work on it to make it into the subscript file, which is to put it all in the time, the 5-second or 4-second time lines. It's very tedious and hard work to do right, actually, to get it timed so the sentences look right for the person who's talking, so it's all, you know, adjusted properly and balanced and so on, and makes sense, of course, which is the top thing. It's quite an art and science, and it takes a bit of work to do that. So people have to use some sort of editor that they're used to using to do that. What kind of software do you use, Corn, to do your transcribing work?
Well, I tried a voice recognition software, but actually, I think it's the one that I had. I forget what it's called now. It's just a generic one for the MacBook, but it was quite difficult, actually, to tell you the truth. What I had to do was actually wear a pair of headphones, listen to the transcription, because Mr. Keshe's language doesn't go easily onto voice recognition software. I'd listen to a sentence by him, and then I would repeat it, and then it would be picked up by the transcription software, and I'd go like that. But it was quite a painfully slow process.
Yeah, and then
one time I remember there where I had a whole lot of S's appearing after every word. And so I thought, what's this? And I took the headphones off, and it was a particularly loud cicada that was outside the door that was intruding itself onto the transcription. I actually found that the voice recognition software that I was using was pretty slow. It was a very painfully slow process. So I just ended up just listening to sort of 5-second bites and just transcribing it directly.
I see.
Now we have CJ, who's at the Keshe Foundation New Zealand, who actually is just like sitting listening to the transcriptions and transcribing them directly onto a Word document. And but he generally takes about 5 hours to transcribe 1 hour of teachings. That's like 4-hour work, so that's 20 hours work.
That's right.
So
not easy work.
yeah, it would be nice to actually get his work paid for by selling the transcriptions, but I guess if you got enough of them online and attached to the YouTube videos, you could put them up for $1 each or something, and it would soon pay for itself, and then allow translation free. And we were talking about to the Chinese delegation at lunchtime, they want to do that as well, as get a Chinese transcriber going. So we'd be very happy to provide our transcriptions absolutely free, and then they can provide their transcriptions on Chinese YouTube or whatever website, the Kish Foundation website, for a small cost, and cover the time of their transcriber. So we were talking about that over lunch today. And I guess I've talked to Giovanni also about getting Italian translations done. So it's a bit of an organic process. That's all happening slowly but surely. Yeah.
Yep, great. Is there anything on the medical side you'd like to teach there? You're supposed to be teaching now, actually. Good opportunity without Mr. Kesh there, because he'll take over otherwise. So you better clear the board and get in what you want to say.
I don't feel like I'm educated enough or wise enough to be able to teach anything on the medical side of it yet. I mean, I'm quite happy to answer any questions about obstetrics or family medicine or...
Right. Well, okay, you broke up there, actually. Missing.
You have to
Okay, it's coming back.
the health plan on the acupuncture point.
That was Ali asking if we've tried the pain pen on the acupuncture points, but no, we're at a fairly early stage of experimentation in New Zealand. Well, the only thing we've done so far is produce pain pads, but also I've got a Māori friend in New Zealand who's been nano-coating a copper wires and nano-coated some copper wires, and he did it in a uniquely Maori way over an open fire. He got some coils of copper wire over an open fire and then dunked them repeatedly in a fish bin, and did it about 50 times, and then wound the copper wires onto his car, the battery terminals. And he reckons it's driving like a Rolls Royce now. And but yeah, that's the next phase of it. I'm personally quite busy in the emergency department, and but I have a good friend who's actually set up a lab over the last few months. And our first effort has been to produce the pain pads with the CO2 and the copper oxide GANS water. And they seem to work really well. And our next experiment is to actually make some pain pens, and I think that would work really well on the acupuncture meridians. Yeah. Yes, Ali asked, said he means not to actually penetrate the skin, but to put outside the acupuncture points. And I think I remember Mr. Kesh sort of stressing that quite he's pronounced himself very vigorously that that's not a good thing and quite dangerous, particularly referring to nano-coated acupuncture needles, right? He says it can be very dangerous to penetrate the skin with nano-coated materials, and so it should be used only with plasma. And I think the same goes for using GANS materials. It's not a good idea to ingest them. but to just use them on the surface of the body, not to penetrate the skin, but to use their plasma effect on the skin and on the body. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think
when coming your department, some people from, for example, car accidents with a broken legs, to go to using this pain pen to stop the pain for the people without any chemicals. Of course, you need some special training, some special education for this, but I think it's more best way to using chemicals.
I definitely agree, and I'm actually really looking forward to applying it in the emergency department in that situation. So instead of putting an IV line and giving morphine, just slap on a pain pad, right? It'd be a good way of experimenting and using the technology, because you can't really do any harm. You can only do good if you're just using it on the surface. Yeah. And so I'm actually really looking forward to actually applying what Mr. Kesh was talking about earlier on about his little device that he's made to regrow fingers and toes and limbs. That sounds like really good. I'm actually working in Australia, an emergency department in Australia, a small rural community. We have lots of Aboriginal people with diabetes and ischemic like vascular disease, and so lots of infections and gangrene in their toes. And so this is a perfect opportunity. So what I understand from him is that this sort of technology actually works only if you leave the limb open. So for example, if you get a finger amputation and you put sutures the skin together, it's not going to work. So it's a little bit of a challenge in the emergency department. If somebody came in with a semi-amputation of the finger,
it would be quite a courageous thing for me to do, to leave it open and put one of these things on. But if I'm talking about like people with chronic infections in the toes, and they get their infection debrided and they're left with open toes, then that's the ideal thing to experiment on. And I'm looking forward to doing that. And I've been promised that I can take one home in a couple of days' time. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. Any other questions? Right. Yeah, well, it's magnesium sulfate, isn't it? So magnesium sulfate is always has got a great reputation as a healing agent, and especially for drawing boils and on open wounds, etc. So I think that's a really good suggestion. Yeah. Well, yeah, that would be very interesting. I've never actually used Epsom salts as a healing agent. I've only used it as a drawing agent to draw out boils and that, like the Magsulf poultice. But so that's really interesting. So, but the other thing that we often use in New Zealand is Manuka honey. It's got amazing healing properties when it comes to chronic infections. So I was thinking maybe a little bit of Manuka honey as well under one of these devices of Mr. Kesh. So, but certainly probably like to try the Epsom salts one too. Did you just use an Epsom salt solution or just like granular Epsom salts and in a tissue or something? Cool. Thank you very much for that. Right.
May I ask? I'd like to ask the doctor a question regarding probiotics. Um, I've recently gotten into kombucha, and do you have any information of how that all kind of comes together? I know it's a fermentation, but as far as how the mother grows, or any information on what it composes a mother, it's not a mushroom, but what actually is it? Do you know?
Well, I'm probably not an expert on that, being an emergency physician, but I do actually recommend to all my patients that take antibiotics or IV antibiotics to have a probiotic after the treatment and during it as well, like during the treatment and after the treatment. And it's what I understand is it's just a culture of the lacto and bacilli and acidophilus bacteria that that cause a healthy environment inside the gut, and so the gut can perform its function and produce a lot of vitamins and minerals. And so most of us have a pretty toxic environment in our gut because we have the wrong bacterial cultures. And so in Australia, I've got I know that there's a doctor in Sydney that how he does it, instead of giving acidophilus, he basically has a poo pill. So he provides a good poo culture by making people swallow a poo pill. And so yeah, I don't know whether it's regarded as a mushroom or a fungus, but it's more like a bacterial culture with like a number of good bacterial culture in the gut. It's really important for good health. Yeah.
One of the things that surprised me when I got the recipe for it, and I've been maintaining it, is the amount of sugar that it requires. And you had mentioned how, and I always heard that sugar upsets the pH balance. But then I'm thinking, but here's this probiotic thing that just needs lots of sugar. It seems to be contradictory. Is there a step I'm missing somewhere? Well, in order to make the kombucha tea, you start with a fermented black tea, or you can use a real sugary drink, but it's basically the sugar that starts to ferment like an alcohol. that actually then creates this probiotic fungus or whatever it is. I'm not quite sure. Um, it's different than the aphidiphyllus probiotic, but this is, it's a fermentation. I mean, it starts to bubble and you collect a lot of gas, but it's yeah, right, like beer and wine.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kombucha fungus you're talking about. I think I've tried that myself, and I think it has a very health-giving effect on the gut.
It
I'm not
tastes like apple
actually.
cider.
Pardon?
It tastes just like apple cider, in my
Yes.
opinion.
Okay.
So I was just wondering, is it worth all the sugar type thing? You're saying, oh, you shouldn't have all this sugar, but then, when you're drinking this Kabuto tea, it's basically a tablespoon of sugar to every 12 ounces.
Yeah, that must be for the fermentation process to produce the particular healing chemicals, whatever they are, in the kombucha brew. I think, as a rule, with my experience in family medicine, like a large sugar intake is not good for the gut flora, and it's likely, especially in women, females, to cause a candida infestation in the gut, which is quite difficult to get rid of. So, as a rule, I don't think it's very good to have a high sugar intake. But
Well, yeah, my take too. But then this Kabuto tea does wonders for my digestion.
that's great. If it works, go with it, I say.
Well, I was just wondering if maybe the bacteria has a counter effect on the we'll say the corrosive aspect of the sugar in the gut or something like that. If there's some kind of flip flop, a balance of energies or something that goes on between the two.
Could well be. Yeah, like certainly without the yeah. Yeah,
Okay, shall we call it a day?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. He's run out of energy. Ferment. Pardon?
Mhm.
Uh, thank you very much for today, and we'll carry on with the teaching tomorrow on the structure of what do you call it, the teaching, and then till Wednesday morning, we'll have what is called a public teaching, and we'll see where we can go and what we can do. Thank you very much, Mr. Davis.
Thank you very much, Mr.
I
Cash.
never forget your name.
Mhm.
You remember my grandmother, my mother-in-law, my grandmother, Mr. Van Dort.
Yes.
It was nice having a surprise. We said it was a big surprise seeing you on Friday night, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot from you.
It was a great occasion on Friday night. It was a wonderful gathering. It was a real privilege to be there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I just had Armin discussing what the scientists in Armenia think about our technology, and he's got his battle on his hand, and tomorrow he's got the same battle with the Georgian government, and then hopefully he gets passed on to Moscow and he'll have the same battle there. It seems that the government scientists are very, what do you call it, very conservative.
Resistant.
And no, it's not the resistance they have, they need to be educated.
Yeah.
And the system is with them now. On it. You got to realize to break through and the technology like this, the way we've done, it's never been done before.
I think we'll have to wait till the 26th when we can all get one, huh?
The thing is, you're still looking for the energy, but we, as I said in the Rome teaching, in the Rome conference, that you got to learn this is everything you need in terms of what you want to get out of it. You want energy, you want food, you want medicine. This totality of it. Talking with Armin, this is changing the course, which is the biggest problem. People see they see the system, but they can't understand it. How can two wire go out, two wire come in, and you get such a difference? And this is what I was trying to explain to them. Educate. Indeed, but he hasn't got that much time to educate. So this is why we went in the background a few weeks ago, said we open all the teachings of Cash Foundation worldwide free. If you want to donate or participate, you can, because we cannot teach a handful of people or a few hundred. It has to be worldwide teaching in a very large scale, and we are there to be able to do it. There is no support gathered by governments that will allow it to do it. And we have the energy on it to make that difference that the governments listen. And doctors like you will bring us a lot of support in a way of being able to translate the knowledge in a way other people can understand. Thank you very much for your support and your translation. Thank you very much for today. And then you see, this is magic. You go out of the matter state and I come in. So we'll see you tomorrow in the teachings as usual. And thank you very much. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Cash.
And everybody in the background who's put so much effort into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Corn, too, for your comments today. Okay, that wraps it up for the 44th Health Teaching Workshop of the Cash Foundation Spaceship Institute for Tuesday, October 20th, 2015. And once again, thank you, everybody, for attending.